Eldorado, the city of gold.
Sought after by men for centuries.
Adventurers and those seeking great fortune sailed away from the shores of safety towards the depths of the New World, believed to hold an unfathomable amount of wealth.
Somewhere, they believed, deep within the jungles and past the mountains, stood the fabled city of gold,
waiting to be discovered.
Throughout Eldorado, Edgar Allan Poe uses literary devices such as symbolism, antithesis, and repetition to express the theme that happiness and peace are difficult to obtain, and that some people will go through their entire lives without finding either. The poem describes a gallant knight in search of the golden city Eldorado. In this case, Eldorado is meant to symbolize the peace and happiness that the knight desires.
Gaily bedight, a gallant knight in sunshine and in shadow had journeyed long, singing a song in search of Eldorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold.
He always looks for fulfillment in his life, but fails to find it. He has grown old, searching for the mystical, unknown happiness, not even knowing if it actually exists outside of his own mind.
And o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot of ground that looked like Eldorado.
Even his final dying wish is to find contentment, justifying why he searched for it so dutifully. His failure to discover it proves Poe's message of how happiness is nearly impossible to attain. The word shadow is strongly meant to portray uncertainty and the unknown, as it is used in the first stanza when saying, "In sunshine and in shadow had journeyed long." However, shadow is used in a variety of different ways throughout the poem. The first time that Poe uses it, it is meant to symbolize bad times, or times of sadness and darkness. This helps to contribute to the poet's overall message because it shows that the knight is willing to endure any sort of pain or struggle to find happiness and peace in his life. It shows that he is not only willing to search through the good times, but also the struggles as well. The next time shadow appears, it is meant to symbolize how darkness took over the knight's heart, or his death. In the poem it is said, "And over his heart a shadow fell as he found." In this instant, the shadow represents the knight's heart becoming tainted and plagued with old age. This shows that he is willing to endure even more pain than originally revealed in the first stanza. This time, it is meant to show that he is willing to sacrifice his mind and body for his cause, whereas before, he only endured moderate strife. However, in the third stanza, it represents some sort of supernatural being, which represents the knight's true dedication to his goal. The poem states that he met a pilgrim shadow. In this line, the shadow is used to represent a supernatural being. It shows how the knight is still searching for Eldorado in the afterlife. Rather than giving up at death, the knight pursues and asks the spirits around him about how to reach his goal. Finally, the mention of scenery and various elements of the setting symbolize the knight's difficult journey through life. The knight, in sunshine and shadow, had journeyed long. The descriptors sunshine and shadow depict both the calm and difficult portions of his voyage. It is important to note how Poe includes illustrations from both sides of the spectrum, good and bad, in order to further show the importance of the journey as a whole. Later in the poem, the shadow says to the knight, "Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow. Ride, boldly ride, if you seek for Eldorado." The shadow informs him that the city can only be reached after trekking a great distance through imaginary places. The mountains of the moon represents the impossible reaches the knight will have to go to, and the valley of the shadow represents the dangers and fears he will have to overcome to become truly happy. Adding in these directions only makes the shadow seem more mysterious, giving another layer to the poem.
This shows the overall difficulty of the knight's journey because he is willing to go to great lengths to accomplish his goal. He is willing to accomplish the impossible and face incredible dangers to realize his lifelong goal to find happiness and peace.
Throughout the poem, Edgar Allan Poe uses antithesis to enhance his message. For example, in the first stanza, the poem says in sunshine and in shadow, which is representative of the positive and negative aspects of the knight's search for happiness. Sunshine is always bright and is usually a symbol of positivity and goodness. However, this is contrasted with a shadow, which is portrayed as dark and foreboding. The antithesis helps to enhance Poe's message because it shows the positive and negative aspects of the knight's journey to find peace and happiness in his life. It helps to highlight the real purpose of the journey, and it shows the darkness and dejection in the knight's mind, but at some points it is overcome with temporary joy. However, because the knight travels between sunshine and shadow, he never reaches his destination, as there is always some portion of sadness and loneliness plaguing his mind. In addition, the narrator says, "And his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim's shadow," which is symbolic of the knight dying and passing on into the afterlife. The antithesis between living and dying, which are represented by strength and his strength leaving him, help to enhance Poe's message because it shows that the knight searches for happiness and peace for his whole life, but never finds it. Instead, he dies, and the shadow in the afterlife tells him to continue with his search.
Repetition plays a huge role in the mood of the play by creating the tiresome feeling of a person who is not content with their life. The repetition of the word Eldorado emphasizes the lifelong searching the speaker partakes in, and how it is in vain because he can never find the city of Eldorado, or just peace and happiness in general. Another word that is emphasized through repetition is shadow. The word shadow is repeated many times throughout the poem, yet with every time it is said, there is a new meaning to the word. Repetition plays an important role in expressing the overall message of the poem. Lastly, the structure and rhyme scheme of the poem add to the message of uncertainty. All of the stanzas in the poem follow a similar rhyme scheme. In the first and second lines, the last word in each of the sentences rhymes with each other, except for in the last stanza. This is one example of how the last stanza differs in the overall structure. This type of rhyme scheme is also shown in the fourth and fifth lines of the stanzas. Although the last stanza differs from all the previous ones, it is also similar in some ways. Each of the third lines in all of the stanzas ends with the word shadow. This sort of structure is also shown in how the last line of all the stanzas end in Eldorado. The differences in structure between the first stanzas and the last stanza show the revelation of the knight in the afterlife.
Edgar Allan Poe uses repetition, antithesis, and symbolism to express his message that peacefulness and happiness are not easy to attain in life. The knight, like many others, searched and searched, but could not find what he was looking for. But maybe, just maybe, it was the journey that he actually desired. Simply being alone with his thoughts was the only thing he really needed to clear his mind. Rather than physical happiness, the knight had instead found who he really was, which was enough to satisfy him throughout the journey of life.
Journeyed along, singing a song in search of Eldorado. But he grew old, this night so bold, and over his heart